It's another wacky day in the world of Magic the Gathering. Wizards of the Coast has just released a very underwhelming banned and restricted update announcement. On top of that, we have a BloomBurrow leak. This is my most hyped set of the year. And if that wasn't enough, we also have a hilarious Modern Horizons 3 scam to discuss.
Magic. I am a wizard! History. I'm an old wizard! The magic historian. My bones hurt.
Greetings! Owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles, my friends. I hope the day finds you well because we have gathered for another cram-packed installment of Mega Magic News. Not only do we have a ban announcement, BloomBurrow spoilers, and a scam to talk about, but we've got some extra news to cover as well, specifically the creation of Arena Direct. And this is something that I can actually get on board with. One of my biggest problems when it comes to the digital version of card games, especially Magic the Gathering, is the fact that it's just that, digital versions. I've been playing physical Magic for 30 years now, which is insane. I'm a dinosaur. So I really don't like the idea of not being able to own my cards. And MTGO gives you the ability to build up a set and then you can cash it out and go give me the physical cards and they'll mail them out to you. But Arena has never really had a way for you to get physical Magic cards. Well, that's where Arena Direct comes in. Now, this isn't the same thing as MTGO. It's not build up a set and you can redeem it. No, instead, this is you can win actual booster boxes of Magic the Gathering cards. So how it works is they're going to have specific tournaments for Arena Direct. The entry fee is 5,000 gems. That's roughly the equivalent of about 30 American dollars. So depending on where you live in the world and the exchange rates for your currency, it may or may not come in on that level. Because as far as I understand, different regions pay more. It might cost more in Europe. But how it works is if you can enter this event and get 6 wins, you can win an entire box of Modern Horizons 3 play boosters. And that seems like a pretty good incentive box-wise. I feel like if they had tried something like this with Markov Manor or Thunder Junction, it wouldn't be nearly as exciting. But Modern Horizons 3 has a higher price point as well as just having more juicy, exciting cards for people. So this is a good place to start with the Arena Direct. So like I said, you have to get 6 wins to get the booster box. If you lose twice, you're out of the event. So you're only allowed to lose 1 time. It's pretty strict in that regard. So it's sealed best of 1 games using Modern Horizons 3 packs. So it's going to be beefcaked up in terms of the crazy bombs that are going to be flying around. The environment's going to be pretty nuts, but because it's sealed, it doesn't require you to have a high level of draft skill. So it makes it more accessible to everybody because you just get what you get. But on the other hand, you also can't focus on building a crazy good deck, and you're kind of left to the luck gods. If they give you a good pool, you're good. If they give everyone else a good pool, you're hosed. So essentially, you take your 6 wins down the road, and they will give you that full-on booster box. It is applicable for a whole slew of countries. There's a few, I think, that aren't included, but Wizards didn't list those. They just listed like this huge laundry list of all the countries that were included. And looking over all the tax specifics and additional information, because they have all the disclaimers saying, we're not responsible for any of your taxes. Anything that we're not legally required to cover, we will not cover. And I noticed specifically that if you live in Slovenia, then you have to file with your tax authority within 15 days of winning one of these booster boxes. That's it. The only prize is a booster box. They don't have lower tiers where you get a certain amount of booster packs. Basically, it's As you move up the chain, you're going to win more gems. If you get 5 wins, you get your full on, 5,000 gems back. So you have to get 5 wins to break even. 6 wins gives you the booster box. Other than that, you're just going to get a certain amount of gems based on where you place. But it's absolutely wild to me that there's one place in the world where you get this box, you got 2 weeks to tell the government. You do not want to mess around with the tax authorities. Things will get ugly for you real swiftly. So, as far as I'm concerned, this is a step in the right direction, allowing you to take your arena goodness and turn it into physical goodness if you want to. And you can totally, as a free-to-play player, also get into these events. It's going to take more work, obviously, because you have to build up the gems through drafting or jafting, whatever that is. I don't know. That's joke drafting. Either way, there's a few ways you can build up gems in Arena, so you could theoretically build up 5,000 and get into the event. I'm a free-to-play Arena player, and I have over 13,000 gems, so I could enter into 2 of these if I so chose to do that, right? So I like that. That's a move in the right direction. Now, let's talk about moves in the wrong direction. Let us talk about the ridiculous Modern Horizons 3 collector booster box, Amazon Scamazon, because this one is next level, all right? You may be thinking, okay, it's an Amazon scam. What do you got for me, buddy? Same thing as before. People order boxes and they get them and they're like, oh, somebody's already tampered with the booster packs and taken out all the rares. We've seen that, right? Different variations of reseals where they go, yo, somebody's taken all the rares out of this, or somebody stuck cards from different sets in here, or I can just tell all these packs have been torn open and resealed. Well, no, that's not what's going on here at all. What happened was if it's too good to be true style world where people found collector boxes on Amazon. Remember, this is collector booster boxes, not regular booster boxes. And remember, this is Modern Horizons 3, which is ultra expensive. So at first, people were finding boxes listed for like $200, $200, $300, like considerably discounted from the regular price point on these booster boxes. So they put in their orders, and lo and behold, it totally turned out to be fake. There was a seller by the name of Amon on Amazon. That's pretty close to the actual name. Anyways, they were apparently taking all these orders in. Yeah, sure, we'll sell you many boxes as you want. But here's the thing. Here's where you get shipped. And here's the scoop. They send you ice cream scoops. Someone was literally in my live stream when their package from the seller got delivered. And they were literally like, yo, I just filmed myself opening this. And it's ice cream scoops. It's ice cream scoops with a label stuck on it that says Modern Horizons 3 Collector's Box. Straight up. Like, this is next level. Just not caring, not even trying. It's not like, oh, we repacked the boxes. We don't even need to have the product we're scamming you for. So it's literally, they just send you like a $4 ice cream scoop. Enjoy that. Now, at first, my brain went, wait, why would you do this? It doesn't even make any sense. You're clearly going to get caught, right? This isn't some slick maneuver where you can say, no, I sent them the packages and now they're just pretending. You can literally go, here's the ice cream scooper with their printed out label on it, Amazon. I would like a refund. And so it honestly took a little bit of digging to figure out why this was even going on. And the reasons are twofold. One is that it takes an inordinate amount of time to get this sorted out. So basically what happens is you get this ice cream scoop. It can take you up to 3 months to get your money back, right? So in that situation, guess what? You've essentially just given the scammer the equivalent of a payday loan, where it's like, yo, here you go. Here's some hundreds of dollars. And depending on where they're living, right, which I presume that these scams are being operated out of China, because that's where a lot of scamming is operating out of, especially when it comes to North Americans being scammed, because they're outside the jurisdiction. They can't be legally chased down, right? All you can do is try and go back through the system. You can't go, I mean, you could theoretically try and go to the police, but they're just going to go, there's nothing we can do about this. This is another country. You're just going to have to go through Amazon's system. So that's 3 months of keeping money from all these different people, earning however much interest on it in the bank, right? So you've got that. But then there's also the fact that Some people are just going to give up. There are people who, I'm not one of them, obviously, but there are people who will eat a huge loss. Well, to me, it's a huge loss. I guess to them, it's not. If you're just going to accept that you lost $200, clearly that's not a lot of money to you, right? And there are a lot of whales in Magic the Gathering who will just go, yo, hold on, I got to go through all this hassle to get my money back. I'm just not going to bother. Now, I presume that's a small percentage of people, but there are people who fall in that category. So the scammers will be getting some money in the short term. And I don't know exactly how all of this works when everything gets unwound. I know that, let's say, for example, you're using like a PayPal account or something like that, and you get a whole bunch of returns and scam requests, or not scam requests, but scam complaints. They'll lock your account. There's nothing you can do. You're done with their service. But can you just go and create a new one with new ID? Like, how tough is the banking system where you are? How easy is it to set up new stuff like that? So I don't know how long this is going to be a thing, but this isn't the first set it's happened with. It's just the most prevalent example. Digging around, people were saying this happened to them 3 months ago with other sets. So this is not 100% a new thing, but it is a hilariously ridiculous scam where it's like, oh, you want a collector's box? You should collect ice cream scoops instead. Absolutely wild. Now, let's move on to talking about the BloomBurrow leaks, and prepare your eyeballs for the most grainy, terrible looking leaks you have seen in forever. We're starting out with Ral, the Crackling Wit. So he's 1 red, 1 blue, and 2 for a 4 loyalty planeswalker that says, when you cast a non-creature spell, put a loyalty counter on Ral. Nice little way to boost up his loyalty. His +1 is create a 1/1 blue and red otter creature. If you haven't heard already, Ral Zarek is actually going to be an otter in BloomBurrow, right? I don't think he's an otter in this artwork. He doesn't look like an otter to me. But with BloomBurrow, we are getting what-if versions of all kinds of different planeswalkers. What happens is when you travel to the plane of BloomBurrow, you automatically get turned into an animal that is like the equivalent of your inner nature. So Ral gets turned into an otter. His first ability is to make otters. And I do like loyalty abilities that crank up the loyalty and give you a way to protect the planeswalkers. So being able to make 1/1 little otter donks that you can toss in front of creatures that are going to try and swing down on Ral is definitely useful. He's got -3, draw 3 cards, then discard 2. That's not too shabby if you want to mess around with any kind of madness nonsense, although just getting to draw 3 and pitch 2 is a great way to chew through your deck and get rid of some extra lands you have kicking around. But the ultimate is the biggest deal. Surprise. -10 loyalty, draw 3 cards, and get an emblem that says, instants and sorceries you control, or you cast, I should say, have Storm. So that means that for every spell that was cast before them in the turn, you get to copy that spell. This is going to lead to insane shenanigans. I really did notice the power level increase when it comes to cards like this, because in the past, the ultimate would have just been you get an emblem that gives your instants and sorcery Storm. But nowadays, the power needle has moved up so much that they're like, yo, slap draw 3 on top of it, so you've got fuel to go off with the Storm right away. Most likely, if you get to Ultimate Ral, you're going to win the next turn, and that's pretty much the power level of ultimates when it comes to planeswalkers, almost across the board. Not all of them, but if you can't win by going ultimate with it, most of the time the planeswalkers, unless they have really great like lower level utility abilities, are just going to get passed over. So this is not too shabby. Again, artwork is absolutely miserable on this because of the image quality. Now, if you thought Ral was bad when it came to the art, take a look at Parting Gust. I don't even know what's going on in this artwork, but who cares about that? It introduces a brand new ability to Magic we've never seen before. Parting Gust costs 2 white. It's an instant that has the ability Gift a tapped fish. So long, thanks for all the fish, right? So, how does it work? You may promise an opponent a gift as you cast this spell. If you do, they create a 1/1 blue fish token before the other effects of this spell come into effect. So it's interesting to me, the wording of it at first when I'm like, okay, promise an opponent something. And then can you just go, I'm breaking my promise? But the way it's worded is, if you choose to do the promise, you have to live up to it. You have no choice to do otherwise. So how does it work? Well, if you gift them a fish token, then the rest of the spell functions differently than if you don't. The spell goes like this. Exile target non-token creature. If the gift wasn't promised, return that creature to the battlefield under its owner's control with a +1/+1 counter at the beginning of the next end step. So this is a standard sort of blink that we've seen before. Obviously, the idea is you can use this to blink your guys out if you want and bring them back as bigger. Or you can go ahead and say, guess what? I'm going to give you a fish, and then the creature just gets exiled. So for essentially the equivalent of 2 white and give your opponent a 1/1 fish, you can exile any creature on the board. And that is obviously a very unfavorable trade. It's like, hey man, I promise that I'll give you this fish if you let me lock your big powerful demon away in some crazy kind of gust of wind. Oh, look, the wind blew it away, but it blew a fish into your hands. It's so weird. Honestly, I feel like there are other cards that probably illustrate the gift concept better from a thematic flavor standpoint, but I think it's hilarious that this is our first introduction through it, through this random leak. Oh, and on the side note, Wizards of the Coast is apparently taking leaks and things of that nature into account now when they're doing their surveys, because they just released the survey for Modern Horizons 3, and they said, how did you engage with Modern Horizons 3 when it came to learning about the set? And one of the categories is unofficial sources, unofficial leaks, right? So Wizards is trying to gauge how much that's impacting things. Up until now, people have said Wizards of the Coast has been doing intentional leaks of their own. I don't think that they were, but they might start to if they're taking a look at the data and going, okay, the set sold really well. Modern Horizons 3 is doing great. Let's find out if the leaks are actually a negative for us. Is this something we really need to be worried about? Do we maybe not need to send out the old pink boys in the future if somebody gets some stuff early? Either way, I found that to be interesting, right? Now that we have finished, because those are the 2 leaks that we have, and again, I'm super, super hyped for BloomBurrow. My favorite kind of Magic the Gathering is old school swords and sorcery style Magic the Gathering, right? And BloomBurrow really does feel like that's what we're going back to. We don't have a whole bunch of technology in the world. You got a bunch of animals of varying cuteness, which if it was just them on their own, it'd be kind of like, it's just a bunny. But when you put little swords and shields in their hand, oh, that changes everything. Mice soldiers with tiny spears, all that vibe, really, really cool to me. So I'm super looking forward to that. Now let's move on to talking about the banned and restricted announcement, because Wizards of the Coast came out and basically went, banned and restricted time, guess what? While they gave like information for a bunch of different formats, they ultimately said, we are not going to do anything in any of the formats. So we're going to talk about some of the thoughts that they specifically had, starting out with Standard. And you can tell that they have become super, super reticent about when it, like basically doing any kind of bannings for Standard at all. The language that they used was really interesting to me, and they qualified bannings as something that were an easy exit for people. And that language is strange to me because it makes it feel like when they're sitting there, they're not like, how do we give people the best experience? It's like, how do we make it hard for people to exit the game? This is an easy exit. We don't want easy exit. Like, it comes across as if they're trying to trap us, right? It's not the greatest sort of look. Wizards of the Coast has been scrambling to try, well, maybe scrambling isn't the right word because it feels like they're not really trying that hard to fix Standard. For those of you who don't know, if you're newer to the game, Standard wasn't actually always a 3-year format. For the entire history of the game until very recently, Standard has been a 2-year format. But Wizards messed up with Standard so badly that they started going, okay, look, we have a lot of booster boxes that are for Standard that haven't sold, and they're about to rotate. So what do? And they're like, why don't we tell everybody that we're trying to fix standard and we'll just make it another year longer so that people will keep buying the boxes. And that's pretty much all they did, right? They still haven't turned around and brought standard decks back in terms of you can walk into the game store and go, okay, I see all these decks on the wall, but they all look like commander decks. Which are the ones I can grab and just play in standard? This is going to sound insane to you if you're new to Magic, but once upon a time, they made challenger decks that were like $30. You could grab them and you could genuinely like throw down in like a Friday Night Magic or whatever. Now, they weren't top tier, but if you took two of them and put them together, you would have 4 copies of particularly playable mythics. Like, they put genuinely good cards into these challenger decks, and you could get them for like $30. But at this point, there's literally nothing you can buy as a deck and just hop into standard. So, in the ban announcement, they talk about how we're trying different initiatives and it's heartening to see that more people are playing standard in stores. But that's not really being borne out in reality from what I can see. It's the same way that the CEO of Hasbro was just like, all of our LGS partners are super happy and things are going great for them. And when you actually take like the lifeline of the game stores, you can see a bunch of them struggling going, bro, we're getting hosed. You're hosing us so hard here. Like, Wizards pretends they're on the LGS's side, but they also got rid of MSRP intentionally so that you would think it's the game store that's hosing you. People go to game stores, they see Modern Horizons 3 costing more, and they think that set costs the same for the stores to buy as regular sets. Oh, this cost them as much as Thunder Junction or Markov Manor, but they're charging pretty much double. What's this all about? You know, there are actually people who defend Wizards' practices of this, going, what? Wizards should charge more for Modern Horizons 3 because Modern costs more and the cards should cost more because they're more exciting. It's like, no. Look, man, especially since they're using artwork they already had kicking around. These sets don't cost them more money to make. They cost less money to make. They don't have to develop a whole world for them. Modern Horizon sets should not be more expensive than regular sets. So Wizards isn't on game stores' side in this way. And as far as I'm concerned, they haven't done enough to juice up standard. So are there more people playing standard? I don't know. There are more people playing commander for sure everywhere you go. And it seems like standard events are having a really hard time firing off with even 8 people. So I find this to be disingenuous. They basically say, we're not going to do any bannings. We looked at Atraxa, maybe banning Atraxa, but then they went, well, when the rotation hits, the Tri-lands will be gone. That should pull Atraxa back a bit. They looked at the Boros action using Knight Errant of Eos, and they went, well, Voldaren Epicure is going to get hit when we do the rotation. So, again, we're just going to leave it alone. Now, to me, they need to take a stronger hand, because the whole argument of bannings are an easy exit, a completely unchanging standard environment that uses basically the same handful of cards to the point where they become oppressive, that's also an easy exit, right? Remember when Oko, that was the start of the new design, by the way. That's when everything started to go off the rails. The new Oko dominated the meta to the point where it was like you play Oko or you play something that you hope can beat Oko, but like 80% of the field was Oko. And guess what? That's really bad for the game too. Bannings are necessary. What's really crazy is that they refuse to make balanced cards anymore. They just come up with whatever insane nonsense. They don't even spend that much time really massaging it into something that makes sense. Think about the wording of what we just looked at, of the giving, promising a gift. And if this gift was promised, if the promise was paid, like, you just go, okay, this is really, really clunky. So you're trimming down enters the battlefield into enters, but then you're making these crazy unwieldy worded abilities. So balance has gone out the window. Now, I'm not going to list every format because some formats they didn't really give any information for, but for Pioneer, they're keeping an eye on the Amalia combo, right? They're just like, we're keeping an eye on it, especially since it can lead to tied games. And it's like, the tied part is the problem you have with it? Not the overpowered nature of the combo? I mean, all right. At least they're paying some attention, I guess. But no changes for Pioneer. Modern, what they said for Modern was pretty funny. They're like, all right, Nadu is strong. And he's definitely causing problems for people in Modern. But people are adapting. Here's how they're adapting. Ral the Monsoon Mage and combining with Ruby Medallion has actually made a deck that's faster than Nadu. And it's just like, what? And it's like, yeah, look, we know this new card from Modern Horizons is causing problems. We understand that. We get that. But we've got these other cards from Modern Horizons that are going to be an even bigger problem. So don't worry, that cancels that out. And we're leaving Nadu with no problem. I mean, let's be real. Modern Horizons 3, this is exactly what it was supposed to do. They're not going to say that. They're not going to be like, tee, but that's the plan. The plan is to go, yo, we made these cards, we shoved them into Modern, you deal with it because we're forcing rotation in now. We're not just going to put in a couple cards that maybe can like change different archetypes. If you weren't around before they did all of these like Modern Horizon sets, here's how it used to work before the Throne of Eldraine days. Back in the day, it went like this. Standard sets, and Standard is the gateway to Magic. So we need to keep Standard balanced and playable, and anything that's like not too strong for Standard means, okay, how much problems can it cause going into Modern and stuff? So the Standard environment would keep the power level at a particular level, and Modern players and Commander players would come in and pick different items like a buffet and go, num, 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 I'll take this for my deck, right? That's how it used to work. Then Throne of Eldraine comes along, and they say, okay, Fire Design. We want cards that reach Legacy. We want cards that reach Modern. All this stuff. Basically, they're saying, hey, we know that you're playing these other formats. The reason people end up in formats like Modern is because they get tired of running on the Standard treadmill. You build up a collection for 2 years. All of a sudden, 1 year that stuff just gets rotated out, and now you're going, yo, I put a bunch of money and time into this, and I can't use these cards anymore. And Modern's going, oh, hey, big boy, come on over here, you can play with me, right? And so they go, oh, cool, I'm gonna go play Modern. I can still use the cards that I already have. And so Wizards looked at all this. They did this everywhere. They even did it on Arena, where they went, it's not fair that our players have paid us hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars and just want to use the cards they already have. That's not all right. You have a format there that's specifically designed in this way where nothing rotates out of it, so we can't force you to rotate the cards. So why don't we create a pseudo-forced rotation by just making cards that are so powerful that you can't ignore them? Are you playing Modern? Well, guess what? You have to engage with the newest crop of cards. And it's a compounding problem because look at Modern Horizons 2. Modern Horizons 2 brought in stuff that forced out a bunch of stuff from Modern Horizons 1 and earlier. And guess what? Modern Horizons 3 is more of the same. That is the new nature of the beast, where they're just going to keep making any set that they create specifically that is allowable in Modern will have broken cards that are there to shake things up. Why do you think Orcish Bowmasters was so pushed? Why do you think the One Ring obviously was super pushed because A, they want to do stuff for Modern, but also it's literally the One Ring. This is going to be a card that people are keenly interested in. If you're playing Lord of the Rings, you want Lord of the Rings stuff. It makes sense that the One Ring is beefed, but random orcs with bows, why are they so powerful? Because Wizards has to make insanely powerful stuff to force it into Modern. And they don't put any forethought into it. They literally just go, all it has to do is force its way in. Bowmasters messed things up so much that people asked, hey, Wizards, Bowmasters makes it really hard to play with 1 toughness creatures. And Wizards' official response was, don't worry about it. We've taken it into account in card design. So now we're making way more creatures with 2 toughness instead of 1, which means now the next time they want to do a Bowmaster style card, they're going to have to make it slam creatures with 2 toughness. So we are like full throttle with the power creep. It's everywhere. They took Historic, they jammed Arena into it. They talked about Arena bannings, and they're like, oh, we don't need to do any alchemy bannings because like Heist decks are making their way in. Heist is the most busted mechanic ever, where you just get to feed cards out of your opponent's deck. Like, oh, look, I can pick 3 cards out of your deck and wail on you with them. There's so many people complaining about Heist on the Magic Arena Reddit. But Wizards considered twice a win that's shaken things up. So that continues the way that it is. And speaking of arena, guess what? Brawl is a nightmare right now. I wonder what's causing it. I wonder what green-blue bird creature... Oh, yeah, no, it's Nadu. It's Nadu. Nadu, right? He is totally messing up Brawl hardcore. And they're just like, it looks like he's going to need some heavy rebalancing or whatever. So that just means they're going to... Remember when we talked about the points ratings that they use for arena matchmaking? Nadu is about to skyrocket up those ranks. And rightfully so. They knew what they were making. It's not a surprise. The thing is an advantage engine. I talked so long about this that my camera shut off, and I was just wrapping up saying that Nadu is an insane card advantage engine, essentially. And it's just going to get worse from here, right? They're going to, at a certain point, they'll come out and be like, you know what? Maybe he is too powerful. But even if they do ban him, they're just going to come along with the next set and go, how do we do the same thing? They consider that a success. These cards being instantly adopted means that people had to go out and buy the packs. Oh, now you got to play Ral if you want to compete with Nadu. Oh, it's all new stuff, right? So that's the way it's going. Ultimately, the ban and restricted announcement was a whole bunch of twiddling their thumbs going, oh, we're looking at stuff. It's all good. We're just not making any changes right now because everything's golden and we don't want you making an easy exit. Anyhow, thanks for coming and hanging out, my friends. I'll be doing a live stream on my other channel tonight if you want to come by and say hello. Big shout out to my patrons for supporting my channel. You guys rule. And I will see you all, my friends, in the next video.